good morning or afternoon or good evening. I don't know when anybody watches these videos, but I realized I always say good morning because it's morning here at my house. But hello, whatever time of day it is. I am excited to get to our Bible stories. We are getting close to the end of the Bible, and then we have some fun stories that can help us, give us the tools or to know ideas on how to face life. Because sometimes we're scared, sometimes we make mistakes, and God has ways that we can not be alone, and lessons, stories to help us know what we can do during those hard times and during good times. But today we have a story called Paul and Silas in Phillippi. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I don't know. It is from Acts chapter 16, verses 16 through 40. Now, Mrs. Blair is a teacher. I do read the Bible, but I don't know how to perfectly say all these names or these places, right? Because I've never been there. I haven't heard them a lot in my life, and sometimes it's pronounced differently. So I try my best, just like you do, to say it right. Now, if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or anybody tells you maybe it's different, that's okay. And I would love for you to teach me then maybe if I'm saying it wrong. So it's okay that we all make mistakes. It's okay that we just try our best. We don't know everything. Even though I'm an adult, I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So thank you for being understanding. All right, this story. The Apostle Paul took the news about Jesus to places far from Judea. So remember, his apostles are spreading the good news, spreading about Jesus to the whole entire world. They are traveling and they are teaching and telling stories. He and his helpers sailed in boats on the Mediterranean Sea. So for safety reasons, to be safe, the ships did not sail far from shore. So voyages took a very long time, which means in the ocean, there's places that have a shoreline or land, beaches. So they were too scared. They didn't want to get hurt. For safety, they didn't want to go in the middle of the ocean, cross the way. They stayed along the coast so that if anything happened to their boat or they needed supplies, they were close enough to be able to go to land and get things or get help. So they weren't traveling around the world across oceans. They wanted to stay near the beaches. They walked along dusty roads to cities near the coast. So the Romans are famous for roads they built, which are often very straight and a lot better than anything that had gone before. A milestone was placed every 1,000 paces. So I was in Rome this last summer, and some of the roads that they built back then are still there, and they're still working, and they still are good, which is amazing. So they had these dusty roads. They eventually maybe put bricks down or cement, but for the most part, they were straight dirt roads back then, and so they would come from the water to the coast, and they would walk on these roads to different towns. So they were trying to get to as many towns as they could by traveling by sea and walking. Paul made many journeys. He baptized thousands of people. But in many towns and cities, Paul got into trouble. The temple leaders sent people to stir up crowds against him. Stir up crowds. Now, they didn't have a big spoon and stirring. That means that the temple leaders sent people to groups that were maybe listening to Paul, and the temple leader people told them things maybe to get them upset, riled up, angry, upset, and maybe not being so nice or questioning or not listening. So they were trying to make things difficult for Paul. They were trying to get people to not like him. Often the crowds beat him up and threw him out of town. Sometimes Paul was put in jail. But it sounds like it didn't stop him. Of course, everywhere we're going to go, there's going to be people who are unkind, sadly. But he kept going. Even though people sometimes were unkind to him, even though he got hurt sometimes, even going to jail, he still wanted to spread the word of Jesus. So these pictures are of the boats and of Paul talking to people. Because he didn't just meet people that didn't like him. He also met those thousands of people that he baptized. That's what happened in the town of Phillippi. Paul was with his friend Silas, another apostle. Some people said that Paul and Silas were telling them to do things that they were not allowed to do under the Roman laws. So the Roman soldiers, the Roman rulers were not really very nice. So they really followed the rules, and some of the things that they're learning from Paul and Silas, they're saying are against the law. An angry crowd gathered around Paul and Silas. The two apostles were hurt and taken to jail. So the town of Philippi was a city in the Roman province of Macedonia in modern-day northern Greece. So Greece is near that area. It's along a coast. At that time, it was a Roman colony and a busy trading place. Now, this other apostle, Silas, he wasn't around during Easter time, but Silas was a Jewish Christian and leader of the church at Jerusalem. He was also known as Silvanus. Very fancy name. So these two were teaching about Jesus, and people were upset because they're saying that they were trying to get them to break the law. So they took them to jail. So they are in jail. In the jail, their feet were chained to heavy blocks of wood. But Paul and Silas were not afraid. They prayed and sang praises to God. So instead of giving up, instead of saying, oh, we're so angry at these people, or we're not going to do this anymore because we keep getting hurt, we keep being sent to jail. Instead, they were hopeful, they kept their faith, and they sang praises. They prayed, they spent time with God, they sang praises like church songs or different prayers maybe they sang. About midnight, which is very late at night, the last hour before a new day, the men heard the earth under the jail rumble. So they're sitting in the jail and they're hearing the ground make noises. It's kind of shaking. The jail began to shake. It was an earthquake. An earthquake doesn't really happen here in Nebraska, but the earth is made up of different plates, different pieces of ground, and sometimes they hit. And that is an earthquake. So underneath the jail where they are, there is an earthquake. Here they are. What's going to happen with this earthquake in the jail? The shaking got stronger and stronger, and suddenly the doors opened and the chains fell off. Paul and Silas could have walked right out, but they didn't. So this earthquake caused them to be freed. The doors were open. Their feet weren't chained anymore. They could have just walked out and been free. But they didn't. Why would they do that? Why do you think they wouldn't leave? Here they are. They're standing there looking at the situation. They know they could leave if they wanted. Let's see what happens to them. The next morning, some guards came to the jail. They were surprised to see Paul and Saul were still there. The guards told the two apostles they were free to go. So why were these guards surprised that they were there? But Paul said, "We are Roman citizens. The officials in this town let us be hurt and put into jail without a trial." So a trial is like where you go to a judge and they say things that maybe you did wrong and they sentence you to time in jail or whatever. But they said they didn't get a trial. Now they want to send us away in secret? No, they cannot. They will have to come here themselves and let us out. So the people that didn't give him a trial, that just took him and put him in jail and kind of forgot about him, they said, we're not leaving until they come and say, you're free to go. Because they were wrong for what they did. They locked them up for no reason. They didn't do anything wrong. So Paul and Silas are staying there because they want something that was wrong to be right. They wanted them to fix it. So they stayed there so that they could be proven innocent. They could be told, shown to everyone that they didn't do anything wrong. And the guards were surprised because they thought, well, the doors were open, you could have gone. But Paul and Silas didn't do that because it was wrong. Roman citizens had special rights, and the town officials didn't want to get into trouble. So Roman citizens were treated better than other citizens because they were near the government. They had special rights and privileges under the law. Paul may have had the honor passed on to him by an ancestor who had been rewarded for distinguished service. So they were apostles, but they were also Roman citizens. So they were special in the eyes of the people that lived back then. They were Romans, so they were lucky in a lot of ways. They were treated nicely. They could do more. So they went to the jail, the officials. They told Paul and Silas they were sorry for what had happened and led them out of jail. So these officials realized these are Roman citizens and we didn't give them a trial and that's not good. We don't want to get in trouble by the Roman government. Afterward, Paul and Silas left Phillippi and went to other towns. So they're not in Rome. But Rome is in charge. They're in charge of Philippi. They own it, kind of. They're supposed to follow the rules of Rome. And those Roman citizens are the special ones. So when Paul and Silas came to Philippi, they were Romans, but the Philippi people, the officials, didn't know that. But they didn't like what they were teaching, so they took them and put them in jail. But when they realized, oh, these are Romans, and they didn't really do anything wrong, they were worried that they would be in trouble for putting them in jail. So they let them out and they apologized. So Paul and Silas were then free, and they continued their journey of going to different towns and teaching about Jesus. Nothing could stop them from preaching and telling the world about Jesus. So even though these things that are not really good, not really fun, not very happy are happening to them. But they don't give up, they keep faith, they are hopeful, and they still want to do their mission. All right, that is the end of Paul and Silas. So if you can learn anything from Paul and Silas, that even though sometimes things aren't going your way, maybe you're in trouble, but you didn't do anything wrong, instead of fighting back, instead of maybe making a sad choice or giving up, have faith, pray, talk with Jesus, sing songs that help you feel better, and realize that in the big picture in life, what matters is what you believe, the choices you make, and your relationship with God. I know sometimes when I'm upset or angry even, I turn on my Jesus jams. I listen to Christian music, praises, and I sing, and it often helps me feel better. So if you are feeling that ever, that's a great way to do it. You can read a Bible. You can look at a story. You can pray. Just talk. Spend time with Jesus. So I hope you learned a lot from Paul and Silas. I miss you all, and to have a wonderful day.